Welcome to Child's Play by EYR, a podcast dedicated to innovative approaches in education. Join us and our expert guests as they share ideas, strategies, and valuable insights to support the needs of all children. Today we're speaking to Hallsworth Kavina from Ocean Generation. Ocean Generation aims to empower an inclusive global movement to tackle ocean threats through science and storytelling. Let's dive in. Hi guys, it's so good to have you here today. Could you tell us a bit about yourselves?
I'm Kavina. I'm the head of youth engagement here at Ocean Generation. And my background is in youth work and primarily in informal education, I would say. But it spans kind of the arts, social action, civic engagement. But yeah, very, very passionate about finding new ways to engage young people and put them in the driver's seat. So 42% of our global population is under the age of 25. So they're nearly half of the population, but least represented in decision-making spaces. I've spent a career trying to kind of change that narrative, bring young people into those spaces, and Ocean Generation is part of that journey.
And I'm Matt. I'm our youth engagement coordinator, so I look after our Ocean Academy program, so from the age of 3 to 16. And my background is also in largely informal education, but I was a primary school teacher as well. So I've got that kind of the educational background in terms of working with young people. But I worked in lots of museums and cultural settings. Worked at BBC Bite Size as well on their programs, and then I started sort of working towards wanting to sort of do something around climate and sustainability. I worked with a football organisation who were trying to get that into football clubs. And then when I saw an opportunity at Ocean Generation with the kind of messaging that we do and being able to engage young people in a way that lots of organisations don't, I thought that was the perfect opportunity. So I've really enjoyed being here so far and being able to get out to 42% of the world's population who are kind of, not always necessarily engaged or involved in a lot of those climate conversations.
That's really exciting. It's so great to hear that you're part of that. But obviously, talking about these big scientific issues, it's a lot. How do you create engaging content out of things that can be quite complex for young people?
I would say that's definitely something that we really pride ourselves on. And there's probably kind of 3 key elements within Ocean Generation that provide the backbone of that. So firstly, it's our science function, then comms, and then youth engagement. First of all, with science, that is the core part of Ocean Generation. So there's so much information there, like you say, that can be really overwhelming. And, a lot of it is quite a lot of the time actually incorrect. Lots of sensationalism, lots of fear-mongering. So we're really proud that, because of the history of our organization, storytelling and accurate storytelling is definitely a key part of it. And I would say we're not always hot on off the press, that kind of vibe. We pride ourselves in taking it a little bit slower, but it just means that people can rely on us for, information and science. And then we've also got, so comms is the other element. So it really is about kind of making sure that when you're kind of going through your Instagram feed or social media feeds, that it just fits quite seamlessly in there. So it's using things like pop culture references, and that is where we really are on social media trends, and really making that kind of ocean education really accessible. So how can we make it really simple without dumbing it down? And then finally is the youth engagement function, and that is really around the workshops and empowering people to take action. So putting the participants in the driving seat and really being, again, just feeling we're not going to be preaching to you. We're not going to be telling you everything you need to know. Exactly like you said, it's so complex. It is so complex, but living in that complexity, our world is increasingly, understanding that we are a million shades of grey and things are not black and white, and actually resting in that and being actually, here are the tools and you can find the information that you need. Trust yourself, start taking action, stop trying to be perfect, striving for perfection, and just start doing. So that's kind of the key messaging in that. So all 3 of those together, I feel like really are kind of the heartbeat of the organization.
And on that last point, the engagement programs that you mentioned, one of those is the UNESCO-endorsed one. So that's for 3 to 25-year-olds. Could you tell us a bit more about them?
Yeah, so we run 3 programs. So we've got Earth Cubs, which I'm sure we'll be talking about in a bit more detail in a bit. Ocean Academy, and Wave Makers. So they span what we call kind of our 3 pillars of engagement. It says introduce, educate, and empower. So introduce is for the really, really little ones. We really strongly believe that you cannot protect something that you don't have a relationship with. So for a lot of people, the ocean in its very form is extremely underrepresented in our education system. So we partner with a gaming platform called Earth Cubs, and for our really little ones, it's just through play, like just being able to explore ocean environment and really have their eyes open to the wonder of the ocean and that how fascinating it is. And I have to say, hands up, I was not an ocean ambassador before I joined Ocean Generation, but I've become completely enamored by it by working here. And there is just so much that we do not understand. And I think it is a really beautiful reflection for the world and again increasing representation. And then Educate is Ocean Academy, which is our educational program, exactly how it says in the tin. And that's really again kind of trying to target that underrepresentation of the ocean in our education system. We go into museum, gallery spaces, but also schools, primary and secondary schools, we run it in as well. And then finally, we've got Wave Makers, which is for 16 to 25-year-olds, and that is really to empower. So it still has those elements of introducing them to the magic of the ocean and educating them on ocean threats, but really for that age group, it's at that pivotal time of decision making for career routes. What are the next steps, education, and opening up pathways that you can actually bring sustainability and ocean action into any career route. You don't need to be going for traditional blue or green kind of career route options.
Interesting about, you said about if you don't have a relationship with something, you can't even think about protecting it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the sentiment that a lot of our power school teachers have as well. So they empower children to have that relationship with nature and learning outside, and not all classrooms have 4 walls, that kind of thing. With the younger children who you have the programs with, what kind of practical action could children take?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we really kind of we really try to do as an organization is promote the idea of imperfect sustainability as well. So not necessarily being absolutely perfect in every single action that you do. We're just making lots of very small changes that are manageable, that people can do. They're very personal to them as well, and they're things that they can do. And we tend to find that the ones that the kind of decisions that people make when they've been empowered with the tools and the knowledge to make those changes, those are the ones that last, and those are the ones that have the most impact as well. The last thing we want is for young people to feel downhearted about what they're not doing, when actually be really positive about the things that they are doing and the things that they have power over and they can actually influence. So, for young people, these can be things like, whether it's walking or biking to school. So, we went into a school last week and we worked with their eco club, and they were talking about all these amazing things that they were trying to do, encouraging walking or biking, going with their friends, getting the bus in rather than taking their car. It might be cutting down on single-use plastic through reusing plastic through craft activities, or making little swaps and things in their lives, taking things that are single use and using something that's a bit more sustainable. Opting to try things like plant-based meals as well in school, or even asking for them when they're in school and they're out and about is a really great way. And we're seeing a lot more young people engage with solutions like that. But even really empowering them with, young people with the tools and knowledge to make a difference is really important to us. So going down the road of activities like, writing to your local MP or your supermarket. There's some great organizations doing work around that. And things like that can really put the power back into young people's hands. They've got a voice, they want to be heard. And usually doing something like that gives them a really great kind of way of channeling that. We worked with a school in a project quite recently called Schools Across the Ocean, where there's a school down in Cornwall, and they wrote to Rishi Sunak from the point of view of a sea turtle, it's around reducing ocean plastic. So there's really creative ways that people can do this and have their voices heard. And then I suppose for adults as well, it's really important that we create those kind of spaces and opportunities for young people to have that voice, whether that's just creating things like, eco clubs. We know they're really popular in schools at the moment. Lots of schools are creating eco teams. Maybe they're working to the Eco Schools UK action plan. But a lot of the time, that really kind of kickstarts conversations and creates a space where young people can get involved in these kind of conversations around whether it's the ocean or the natural world around them. And that's really important as well. So things like that are great to set up for sort of grown-ups and adults maybe in these spaces. And then, there's also things like rethinking what we do when we purchase things as schools. So there's lots of schools who are going down the road and maybe opting to swap some of their items with other schools. Maybe they're going secondhand with some of their library items. Maybe they're rethinking some materials they use for crafts and things like that too. Encouraging things like swap shops is something we've seen in our eco teams. We worked with a school in Wigan just last week who were looking to have a whole eco week. And one of the things they were doing is swapping things like uniforms, toys, everyone bring in something, you swap it around. So encouraging action like that everyone can get involved in is a really great way to do it. But I think most of all, like we said before, encouraging people to go and explore nature, to be really kind of, empowered to go into those spaces, go into nature, whether it's from forest school, whether it's going to the beach, whether it's going just on a local walk, and getting them really excited about the natural world. And that's such a massive motivator. So being able to get them into those spaces, seeing the natural world, the beauty of it, and how amazing it is the best way to get them motivated about wanting to make those changes. And then, we know there's a lot of doom and gloom kind of like messaging and fear mongering. Young people are going to hear a lot of that. So actually encouraging those positive stories of things that are happening, which is what we do with a lot of our comms work, is a great way of encouraging really positive kind of actions too. When those young people in your lives are actually making those changes or trying to make sustainable swaps, or they want to help with something, do the recycling, then actually we want to praise and encourage that as well.
Something we had from one of our guests, Laura Kirby, this season is that she's seen children recognise that they're already taking a lot of sustainable steps, and they're so excited to share that. Is that something that you've seen on your Bring the Ocean to the Classroom sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. So our Bring the Ocean to the Classroom session is it's a huge part of our Ocean Academy program, and it is a really great way for us as well to get into schools, see what young people are talking about, see what teachers are talking about with regards to the environment and sustainability and our ocean as well. So part of that is at the very end, we want to encourage positive action. So we get the young people to talk about the kind of things they're doing, swaps they want to make, anything they think they could go away and do in the future. And we talk to them, we'd have, some Q&As around that. And you hear some really amazing ideas and things that they're obviously very passionate about. And the things that they want to kind of put in place. So we see a lot of that. And that's a really big part of what we do is in our Bring the Ocean to the Classroom session. And for those people who don't know, we run these as like kind of workshops. They're about 40 minutes long. We run them as full school assemblies, or we can work with sort of smaller cohorts as well. And it's through like sort of sound, video, storytelling. We explore like the importance of the ocean, why it's interconnected with us as well. So, what happens on a beach in Blackpool impacts Brazil, and what happens in Southend has an effect in Sri Lanka, and vice versa. So it's about seeing the interconnectedness with the ocean, even if you don't live near the ocean as well. It produces over half the oxygen that we breathe, and it's such an important part of all the food, our water. So it's absolutely vital. So it's really getting people to make that connection. We also talk about, the amazing creatures in the ocean, which again is a huge motivator for young people, the threats that the ocean faces, and then we kind of move on to that kind of positive action that people can take as well. So with these sessions, we love going in and speaking to young people, and then we also get like so much feedback from them as well. Teachers really value that, whether it's kicking off like an eco week in their school, or whether it's just a thread that they're trying to weave in throughout their whole curriculum around sustainability messaging and wanting to be more eco-conscious in everything they do. It's a really great way to kind of kick off those conversations as well.
Yeah, and it feels like these conversations have definitely come a long way from like even when I was a child, this was all really underrepresented. But now, like for example, in my own community, we have edible gardens and uniform banks. It's really positive.
And yeah, we've seen a lot as well about, you mentioned about schools swapping toys and uniforms as well. And that's become such a big trend, which is really positive to see.
And that's wonderful because it actually builds community, right? So it's quite... Sometimes I find it's easy to have this conversation and keep it really two-dimensional and just talking about the ocean, but there are actually so many benefits, like even you were saying, Matt, just about taking children outside, and connecting with their natural space and their surroundings. Like we're having a huge mental health epidemic at the moment, and things like that are really restorative, build community connection. So yeah, there's so many kind of benefits to this approach, and just doing it. What I always see is that the ocean is a lens, but really what we're trying to achieve is so much bigger than that.
We've already seen how the power of storytelling can affect bigger things, like through the sea turtle letter. Can you tell us a little bit more about the ocean intelligence approach?
The ocean intelligent approach is exactly what we've been endorsed for by UNESCO. So it's really about distilling the information and not oversimplifying it. I think that's really important. We're not dumbing it down. It's just trying to make it really accessible. You know, there are already so many barriers to ocean education in terms of it being underrepresented, like all the things that we were talking about already. The other bit is actually translating this in a way that we understand. So again, using that kind of those pop culture references, making it relatable. What's really wonderful is that we definitely do have, storytelling is completely in our DNA, and because of Joe, our founder and producer of A Plastic Ocean. The reality is, as an island nation, even here, people are so disconnected from just our water systems in general. There's some wild statistic, what was it, from Blackpool, where even, children that are living within 100 meters of the seafront have not been or do not have a relationship. There's so much opportunity to really bring the ocean into the classroom, but obviously that is completely recognizing the fact that teachers have a lot of pressures on them. The education system post-COVID in particular is so pressured, and there's a real beautiful power to bring something that you don't normally talk about into the conscience of a community like a school. Because school is not just its students and its teachers, it's the parents, it's the organizations that are supporting it, it's its community in itself.
Your film, A Plastic Ocean, which is still as relevant as it is when it came out in 2016, empowers people to take actionable steps. What's the story behind the film?
Yeah, so that was a huge journey for Joe, our founder, and she ended up leaving a job producing films at another organization because they were literally cleaning up beaches before they could film on them. It's unimaginable now because we do talk about things like single-use plastic. People are aware of that. But that film, A Plastic Ocean, was a massive catalyst, There was no appetite for a movie like that. And we are also just one step beyond kind of that film because that film still resonates very deeply, right? So there's a really pivotal scene in that where the kind of guts of this seabird is opened up and you can see all the plastic in there. But I think where we are one step removed from when A Plastic Ocean came out is that is of its time, and that, okay, that image is shocking, but how do we now move a state of shock into action? And, again, when we're showing children this, and I'm sure you've had, maybe Matt, you can add in terms of the presentation, I think that, you get audible gasps and emotional reactions when we're sharing the information, because we always share the education piece and the information of our impact. But then it's really about, okay, but now what can you do? What can you do next? Now that you know this information, what can we possibly do? And giving those really clear steps and starting somewhere is exactly building that kind of empowerment. Otherwise, of course, it's going to continue feeling like a hopeless situation. But I really strongly believe, and this is something that we also do through especially our Wavemaker workshops in the older age range, we build on this ethos of start with you and you start doing something, and it will build your sense of agency and ownership. It will allow you to connect with others, and that's how movements start, right? They always start with us.
So as well as the film and a variety of other resources and workshops that you do, you've had a partnership with Earth Cubs and released an app.
Yeah, so we work with Earth Cubs to create a series of kind of lesson plans, games, and a host of other resources, all as a part of their app. I know from being a classroom teacher and having to deliver lessons and assemblies on topics like that, where maybe actually I don't feel massively confident in delivering, or actually is it going to be done in a kind of an engaging way, something that really involves them, that provides them with agency, that has all these different kind of cross-curricular activities and pathways you could go down. So from using the app and sharing with schools, I know I would have valued that massively. So the three kind of things that we worked on with them were One World, One Ocean for 3 to 7 and 7 to 11 audiences, Welcome to Tahiti, which is for kind of early years, 3 to 5 year olds, and 5 to 7 year olds as well, and our plastic pollution kind of program as well. They're all complete with lesson plans, curriculum links, loads of videos, games. There's loads of opportunities for play and kind of exploratory kind of learning. things like comics and craft activities galore as well, all complete with kind of like step-by-step pictures of exactly how to run the session, where you can kind of deliver it from the whiteboard, from a screen, to your young people in your class or in your community group. And it's a really kind of valuable resource. It's really intuitive. So there's loads of like opportunities for young people to engage with some of the characters involved. So we have Shane the Shard and Polly Pufferfish, who kind of take young people on a journey, whether that's for Tahiti, for example. They read Polly's letter about plastic and how it makes her upset and sad and what they can do before going on to like craft activities and videos and games and things. And it really kind of takes you on that kind of journey through the lesson. And at the end, like with all our kind of learning programs, it's that kind of positive action at the end. And then, like, on top of that, we also have like our Ocean Academy resources to go alongside that. So whether you're a teacher or a parent or a subject lead, there's so many kind of resources that we have, all linked to the curriculum, all with these, really interesting prompts and questions, all with a kind of cross-curricular element. So Earth Cubs and our Ocean Academy resources, really like a great kind of first stop for teachers who wanted to have that ocean conversation with their young people.
Yeah, I love the activities. We should try some out, like the plastic bottle jellyfish.
I wish I was a student so I can actually be in that kind of lesson, because it's just so fun and really not static in the way that we're used to kind of being in a classroom as well. So really rate it.
Yeah, because I guess the worst thing is just like reading just a textbook. They stop with the words. So like having those and there's like emotional connections as well, like you said. It's so important. My little sister, and I've talked about it before, but she's huge on environment. And I remember her coming home and she'd had a lesson on plastic and how it affects birds. Mm-hmm. And she'd seen this picture of a seagull with the classic plastic. Yeah. And then she came home and every single one she was sniffing away and making sure. So it does have such an effect.
Yeah, and it just makes me think like, gosh, imagine the emotional strain, like a 5-year-old having to think of their global impact. I don't know if I was thinking of things like that when I was 5, So I think it's just also recognizing like, okay, they really do, they're feeling, they're connecting, but how can we alleviate that pressure and how can we equip them with doing things and feeling hopeful and optimistic and sharing those good news stories as well.
I think approaching it as well in that kind of, the way we approach a lot of the topics as well, we have to do it really sensitively. Like, different kind of parents and teachers are, and the young people themselves, some are, more able to take in that information than others. And actually, a lot of parents don't want necessarily being bombarded with images that are upsetting or anything that's maybe, is going to increase that kind of climate anxiety lots of young people kind of face. But actually really approaching the topic in a very sensitive way where we are introducing the threats, but we're also showing those solutions. We're also talking about the kind of positive things they can do and doing it in a way that's really engaging and really interactive and really fun for them to get, to really kind of appreciate the ocean and the natural environment is so important as well. So like doing it in a fun way and also sensitively, it's a really kind of fine line to tread. But like the Earth Cubs app and a lot of the work and programs that we do kind of really do that well, I think.
So you mentioned climate anxiety. Where can we source positive news? Where can teachers find uplifting stories to share with their children?
There are quite a few positive kind of like news organizations that you can follow. And one of the best ones is Ocean Generation. You can sign up to our newsletters where we do share lots of very positive ocean stories, which are great for sharing with young people. We've got our Instagram and for Ocean Academy and for Ocean Generation, where again, we share lots of really engaging content. We talk about the threats, but we also talk about the positive steps that are kind of ongoing as well. There's been some really great stories recently. I mean, last year, there were loads of ocean positive stories. So there were the High Seas Treaty, where like 200 countries signed up to this like legally binding treaty where they're going to grant protected status to like 30% of the oceans. Currently, it's just like, currently it's like 1.2%. So that's absolutely massive for the ocean. Like it's like a kind of really groundbreaking story. But to be able to share that with young people or talk about something like that, it helps them feel like there's actually something being done about it. One of the big stories from last year was this huge kind of like 1 mile long coral reef. It has literally just been discovered off the coast of the Galapagos. And it's this thriving, biodiverse ecosystem that's basically not been affected by human activity. And it just goes to show that when we allow the ocean to like flourish, it can do. And I think as well, just trying to engage young people in things they care about to do with, say, the ocean and sustainability is really, really important. There was a really great story this week that I've actually been into a few schools this week and chatting to people about this. So William Trusty Com, He's the Nigeria captain of the football team at the African Cup of Nations. And he's the very first player to have an eco-conscious football boot at a major tournament. But he took this boot to this tournament. He's their captain. It's made from like sugarcane and corn waste, and it's totally recyclable as well, which is like a first. So it's a really, really big deal to have something like that and have someone with that platform showing the world, I'm captaining my country at a major tournament. I'm wearing this eco-conscious boot and it's not affecting my performance. I'm playing all the better for it. And then just the other day, he scored a winning penalty against Ghana as well. You know, he stood up to take the penalty, and it's just like, that's such an amazing story. But like already this week, you know, I mentioned it in a few of our workshops that we had, and there were so many young people who were then like, oh, that's so cool. Like, who does he play for? Look, they're asking so many questions about it and the boot, and like, oh, so why is that a good thing? Or why the other ones maybe, what do they need to do to be better? And it just prompts loads of conversations. It gets people to think, oh, actually, maybe I would make that choice next time. Or maybe I'm a footballer, or, you know, I'm on TV one day, or I'm, you know, a musician, that I would use my platform to do that. So yeah, really, really important to share those kind of positive stories. Really helps to empower young people to think about what they can go and do. It's a club, Forest Green Rovers. They make football kits out of mushrooms and coffee grounds. So every kit they bring out every year, they try and do something different. And just chatting to young people about that, and they were like, one of the activities we were trying to run was around, if you're a museum curator in 2050, and we'd help protect our oceans, and carbon emissions will reduce. You're a curator, what item would you put in that tells that story of the last 26 years of how we've become more sustainable and how we've kept the oceans healthy? And loads of them then, after we'd spoken about that, were talking about like, oh, I'm going to make this kit out of used sawdust, or we're going to make out of like, you know, the paper that we recycle in our bins, we're going to turn that to a football kit, because then just like the possibilities are out there, and it really kind of encouraged them to think a little bit more laterally about like what they could do, or what new thing might be around the corner, or what they might be inspired to go and invent and do themselves, or go and write a letter to that football kit manufacturer and asked about like, what could you do to make it more sustainable?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. The positive news of the area, just those actionable things that people can do. It's so exciting. I'm really excited for like young people to grow up with this kind of mindset now. It's great.
I feel like in the past, the pressure was very much on the next generation. Like the children will fix this. And now it's more like, we're all the ocean generation.
You know, when we go out to places around, we do public engagement events, and you might hear people talking about like, oh, well, your generation's going to have to fix all the things we did. And actually, it's not that. It's actually giving young people the voice to say, hang on a minute, that's happened. What are you going to do to help us to do something about it? We're definitely not, this is your problem. You had to deal with it. And we always think stuff like that has that kind of ripple effect as well. It's not just like one individual doing it, but if it's just someone going home and talking to their parents about how great the ocean is, it just has a bit more of an impact. It starts like widening that circle of influence that they have.
Before we say goodbye, what are your key takeaways that you want people who are listening to know?
I think the most important thing is this embracing this imperfect environmentalist. I think it's so important now to stay grounded in the reality of the world that we live in. You know, it would be great if we all, you know, said no to fast fashion completely, didn't fly on planes, you know. But the reality is that is not the world we live in. And to have that expectation of each other has also been detrimental in terms of progress and thinking creatively. That ethos of not just forgiving yourself as an imperfect environmentalist, but also forgiving others and not having that expectation is paving the way to actually a better future.
Yeah. You know, since working with Ocean Generation, I've really seen the power of imperfect sustainability, but also that kind of ocean positivity as well, of, you know, the power that actually being positive about our oceans and about the situation and about our ecosystems can really have on young people as well. You know, for us, going out into schools, sharing how amazing the ocean is, talking and putting that really at the forefront of the kind of the work that we do, and then going into like, you know, the kind of positive action that people take, I think I found it to be the most powerful way to engage with young people, and also the way that, you know, educators, parents, carers can do that themselves as well. I love going into places and finding the amazing solutions they got and the pledges they make and the action they want to take and the conversations they have with their parents afterwards. So you know, if you're talking to lots of young people, taking that positive approach is absolutely vital. It helps with, you know, changing those behaviors, and also just giving them, you know, there's a lot of doom and gloom and fear mongering. Actually, what you really want to do is empower them to want to go and make a difference, be excited about our oceans and our environment. So yeah, that'd be my take.
We all want that.
No, we do.
I just want that.
Yeah, as everyone, isn't it? Definitely.
Well, we've learned so much today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about ocean generation?
So oceangeneration.org. But I think like Matt was saying, that our social media channels are, so we've got a specific Instagram for Ocean Academy. So any educators, will definitely encourage you to access that. We've got newsletters that you can subscribe to as well, one for Ocean Academy and then also one general one.
And yeah, if there's and if people do want us at Ocean Generation to come into school and do one of our kind of bringing the ocean to the classroom assemblies or workshops, if you send us an email at youth@oceangeneration.org, then you can get in touch. We can get you booked in for a workshop or an assembly.
Start the journey.
Well, we really enjoyed that conversation with Matt and Kavina. What were your key takeaways?
I think my key takeaway was that movements start with us. So huge changes start with small changes that we can promote within our communities. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I really like the way that Kavina and Matt talks about imperfect sustainability. Yeah, what about you?
I think my key takeaway, well, it's more of a story. I really enjoyed the story that Matt was telling us about the football boots and how that made sustainability more relatable to a larger group of people. And I think that is just a lesson that we can take with us as part of the movement. Like, if you make your sustainability more relatable, then more people will get involved. So, thank you again to Matt and Kavina for joining us on this episode.
Let us know your thoughts and stay in touch with us on our socials.
Make sure to follow us for updates on future episodes and leave a review.
That's all for today.
Bye!